I still remember the moment I found out my boyfriend James betrayed me. The memory burns deep in my mind, even in this new life. He completely destroyed my career, my dreams, and my future at Stanford, all because I trusted him. He teamed up with his new girlfriend to steal my research, leaving me with nothing but broken dreams and a shattered heart. But fate gave me another chance. I woke up this morning in my 18-year-old body, right before college decisions. This time, I know exactly who James truly is beneath his caring facade. All his sweet words about following him to State University, instead of accepting my Stanford offer, are nothing but poison wrapped in honey. The way he pretends to support me while slowly crushing my ambitions, it makes my blood boil. Well, James, not this time. In this life, I'm going to become the physics star you tried to prevent me from being. I'll walk into Stanford with my head held high, knowing every scheme you and your girlfriend have planned. You want to watch me fall again? I dare you to try, because this time, I'm not the same naive girl who gave up everything for love. This time, I choose me. Before we start this journey, buckle up, get ready, and subscribe for a special surprise tomorrow. I jolted awake with a gasp, my heart pounding against my ribs. The familiar glow-in-the-dark stars on my ceiling stared back at me, constellations I had meticulously arranged when I was 14. My hands trembled as I touched my face, feeling smooth, young skin instead of the tired features I remembered from my past life. The digital clock on my nightstand showed 3:47 a.m., March 15th, 2025, the day before college decisions. Memories flooded back like a tidal wave. I remembered everything with crystal clarity. In my past life, tomorrow morning I would receive my Stanford acceptance letter. Instead of celebrating this achievement, I let James convince me to follow him to State University. His words echoed in my mind. "We belong together, Maya. Stanford is too far away. Don't you want us to stay close?" I sat up in bed, wrapping my arms around my knees. The moonlight streaming through my window illuminated my bedroom, exactly as it had been during my senior year of high school. My AP Physics textbook lay on my desk, next to a framed photo of James and me at junior prom. The sight of his smiling face made my stomach turn. 5 years from now, in that other life, James and his new girlfriend Lisa would steal my groundbreaking quantum entanglement research. They published it under their names while I watched my career crumble. The betrayal destroyed me so completely that I never recovered. My dreams of becoming a renowned physicist shattered like glass. But now I had been given another chance. I slipped out of bed and padded across the room to my desk. With trembling fingers, I picked up the prom photo. James looked so innocent, so trustworthy. His warm brown eyes and gentle smile had fooled me completely. How could I have known that behind that perfect boyfriend facade lurked someone capable of such calculated betrayal? The sound of early morning birds chirping outside drew my attention to the window. The sky was beginning to lighten, painting the horizon in soft shades of pink and gold. In just a few hours, the mail carrier would deliver that life-changing Stanford acceptance letter. This time, things would be different. I placed the photo face down on my desk and opened my laptop. The screen illuminated my face as I logged into my email, checking for any messages from James. Sure enough, there was one sent late last night. "Can't sleep thinking about tomorrow. Whatever happens with college decisions, we will figure it out together. Love you." My fingers hovered over the keyboard as I considered how to respond. In my past life, I had replied with an equally loving message, completely blind to the manipulation that would follow. This time, I knew better. I closed the laptop without replying. The rest of the morning passed in a blur of nervous energy. I showered, dressed, and made my way downstairs where Mom was already preparing breakfast. The familiar scent of coffee and pancakes filled our kitchen. "Someone is up early," Mom said, sliding a plate of blueberry pancakes across the counter to me. Nervous about college decisions? I managed a small smile, grateful that she had no idea just how complicated my emotions truly were. "A little, but I have a good feeling about today." Mom squeezed my shoulder. "Whatever happens, we are so proud of you, sweetheart. Your father, and I know how hard you have worked." The sound of the mail truck stopping outside made my heart skip a beat. This was it, the moment that had changed everything in my past life. I forced myself to wait until Mom brought in the mail, sorting through the stack of envelopes with practiced calm. "Maya," she called out, her voice trembling with excitement. "There is a large envelope here from Stanford's." I accepted, though my heart was racing. The cardinal red logo seemed to glow against the white paper. I knew what was inside, but my fingers still shook as I carefully opened it. "Dear Ms. Chen, I am delighted to offer you admission to Stanford University's class of 2029. Mom's joyful cry filled the kitchen as she pulled me into a tight hug. My own tears fell freely, but for different reasons reasons than she assumed. This was my second chance, my opportunity to choose myself, to protect my dreams, to become the person I was always meant to be. My phone buzzed with an incoming call. James's smiling contact photo filled the screen. In my past life, I had answered immediately, eager to share my news. His congratulations had quickly turned to concerns about long-distance relationships, subtle hints about the prestigious physics program at State University, and careful manipulation of my fears about losing him. I watched the phone ring until it went to voicemail. Then I blocked his number. Mom was already calling Dad at work, her voice filled with pride as she shared the news. I excused myself and went back upstairs to my room, closing the door behind me. Sitting at my desk, I opened my laptop again and began researching Stanford's quantum physics program with renewed purpose. The text messages started arriving shortly after. First from James. Maya, why aren't you answering? Please call me. Then from his friends. James is worried about you. Are you okay? Why are you being so cold? I ignored them all, focusing instead on the exciting research opportunities at Stanford. Professor Sarah Chen's work on quantum computing particularly caught my interest. In my past life, I had never even considered applying to her lab. Too caught up in trying to maintain my relationship with James. The doorbell rang around noon. I knew without looking that it would be James, probably holding flowers and wearing that concerned expression that had once seemed so caring. Mom called up the stairs. Maya, James is here to congratulate you. Taking a deep breath, I walked downstairs. This confrontation needed to happen. Better to end things cleanly now than let him continue his manipulation. James stood in our entryway, clutching a bouquet of roses. His face lit up when he saw me, but I could see the calculation behind his smile. There is my Stanford girl. I am so proud of you, but we need to talk about what this means for us. There is nothing to talk about, James. My voice was steady, confident in a way it had never been in my past life. I am going to Stanford. Alone. His expression flickered, that perfect boyfriend mask slipping for just a moment. Maya, be reasonable. We have talked about this. Long distance never works. State University has an excellent physics program, and I already got accepted there. We could be together. I am being reasonable. For the first time, I am choosing what is best for me. I stepped back, creating physical distance between us. We are done, James. I do not want to hear from you or your friends again. The mask slipped further, anger flashing in his eyes. You are throwing away 2 years together? For what? Some fancy school where you will be just another face in the crowd? At least at State, you would have me to support you. I laughed, the sound sharp and knowing. Support me? Like you supported Lisa when she helped you steal my research? Oh wait, that has not happened yet. But it would it not? If I let you manipulate me again? James's face went pale. What are you talking about? Who is Lisa? It does not matter. What matters is that I see you clearly now. I opened the front door. Goodbye, James. Good luck at State University. He stood there for a moment, mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. Then his expression hardened. You will regret this, Maya. Stanford will not be what you expect. You need me. No. I closed the door in his face, leaning against it as I heard his footsteps retreat down our front walk. My hands were shaking, but my mind was clear. For the first time in either of my lives, I felt truly free. Back in my room, I deleted all my social media accounts and created new ones under a different email address. James would not be able to track my Stanford journey or find ways to interfere. I spent the rest of the afternoon making plans, researching housing options, and drafting emails to potential research advisors. As the sun set, painting my room in shades of orange and purple, I felt peace settle over me. The hard part was done. I had broken free from James's influence before he could sink his claws in too deep. Now I could focus on building the future I truly wanted. My phone chimed with a new email notification. It was from Stanford Housing, asking me to fill out my roommate preference form. I smiled as I opened it, ready to begin this new chapter of my life. This time, nothing would stand in the way of my dreams. The next week passed. James continued his attempts to contact me through different phone numbers and email addresses, but I blocked each one systematically. His messages grew increasingly desperate, alternating between declarations of love and thinly veiled threats about how I would fail without him. My parents noticed the change in my behavior, especially my sudden break from James. Mom caught me in the kitchen one evening, concern written across her face. Sweetheart, is everything okay? James's mother called me today. She is worried about how abruptly you ended things. I stirred my tea, choosing my words carefully. I realized something important, Mom. James and I want different things. He expected me to give up Stanford for him, and I refused to compromise my dreams for anyone. To my surprise, Mom pulled me into a tight hug. I am so proud of you, Maya. Standing up for yourself is not easy, especially when it comes to first love, but you are making the right choice. Her support meant everything to me. In my past life, I had let James and his family guilt my parents into thinking Stanford was too expensive, too far away, too risky. This time, I was determined to protect them from his manipulation as well. The day of high school graduation arrived bright and clear. I had successfully avoided James for weeks, but I knew I would have to face him during the ceremony. As we lined up alphabetically in our red and gold gowns, I could feel his eyes boring into my back. Principal Martinez called my name, and I walked across the stage with my head held high. The diploma felt different in my hands this time, more like a stepping stone than an ending. When I returned to my seat, I noticed James trying to catch my eye from a few rows back. I kept my gaze fixed firmly on the stage. After the ceremony, he finally managed to corner me near the refreshment table. Maya, please, just give me 5 minutes to explain. I set down my punch cup, maintaining a safe distance between us. Explain what, James? How you plan to convince me to give up Stanford? How you would slowly chip away at my confidence until following you to state seemed like my only option? His face darkened. You are being ridiculous. I love you. Everything I do is to protect you. Stanford will eat you alive. The competition there is brutal. At least at state we could face everything together. I do not need your protection. My voice carried across the courtyard, drawing attention from nearby graduates and their families. What I need is for you to accept that we are done. I am going to Stanford, and nothing you say will change my mind. James stepped closer, lowering his voice to a menacing whisper. You think you are so smart, do not you? But I know you, Maya. You will crash and burn without me. When that happens, do not come crawling back. I met his gaze steadily. The only thing you know about me is what I let you see, and that person does not exist anymore. Turning on my heel, I walked away from him for the last time. My parents were waiting by the car, beaming with pride. Dad snapped photos as I approached, completely unaware of the confrontation that had just occurred. That evening, I sat in my room packing for college. Each item I placed in my suitcase felt like another step toward freedom. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. James again, this time with a different approach. I just got my housing assignment for state. There is still time to transfer. We could room near each other. Please do not throw away everything we built together. I deleted the message without responding and continued packing. My Stanford housing assignment had paired me with a girl named Rachel from Seattle. We had already connected on social media and seemed to share similar interests in physics and astronomy. The summer passed quickly. I spent my days preparing for college, taking online courses to get ahead, and carefully documenting every attempt James made to contact me. His behavior grew more erratic as August approached. He showed up at my house late one night demanding to speak with me. Dad had to threaten to call the police before he would leave. Finally, move-in day arrived. As we drove towards Stanford, I felt a weight lifting from my shoulders. The familiar campus buildings came into view, but this time they represented opportunity rather than regret. Rachel was already in our room when I arrived, hanging fairy lights around her desk. She greeted me with an enthusiastic hug. Maya, I am so excited to finally meet you in person. We spent the afternoon unpacking and getting to know each other. Rachel was exactly as she had seemed online, brilliant and friendly with a quick sense of humor. When she mentioned her interest in quantum physics, I felt a surge of hope. Perhaps this time I would find genuine friendships built on shared passions rather than manipulation. That evening, our resident advisor gathered all the freshmen. As I looked around at my new classmates, I caught sight of a familiar face that made my blood run cold. Lisa Chen sat in the corner, her dark eyes scanning the room calculatingly. In my past life, I had not met Lisa until graduate school, where she had helped James steal my research. Seeing her here now sent a shiver down my spine. Had something changed because of my different choices? Or had she always been at Stanford, and I had simply never noticed her before? Lisa's gaze met mine, and she offered a practiced smile. Hi, I am Lisa. I think we are in the same physics seminar. I forced myself to smile back, keeping my voice neutral. Maya, nice to meet you. As the RA went over dorm rules and safety procedures, I watched Lisa from the corner of my eye. She appeared to be paying attention, but I noticed how she studied each person in turn, assessing them like pieces on a chessboard. After the meeting, Rachel linked her arm through mine as we headed back to our room. Want to grab dinner? I heard the dining hall is serving pizza tonight. Sure, I agreed, grateful for the distraction from Lisa's unexpected appearance. As we walked across campus in the gathering dusk, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. This time, I would be ready for whatever schemes Lisa might have planned. The first week of classes was intense, but exhilarating. I had forgotten how much I loved the intellectual challenge of Stanford's physics program. Professor Chen's introduction to quantum mechanics course was particularly fascinating. I made sure to sit near the front, far from where Lisa had chosen, a seat in the back row. Between classes, I focused on building genuine connections with my classmates. Rachel introduced me to her study group, and I found myself enjoying the collaborative atmosphere. We spent long hours in the library, working through problem sets and debating theoretical concepts. One evening, as I was leaving the physics building, after a late study session, I noticed Lisa speaking intensely with someone in the shadows. My heart stopped when I recognized James's voice. "Are you sure she is in Professor Chen's class?" he was asking. "Positive," Lisa replied. "She seems different than you described, more confident. It might not be as easy as we thought." I ducked behind a column, my mind racing. How had James found me? Why was he already working with Lisa? In my past life, they had not connected until years later. Their voices grew fainter as they walked away, but I had heard enough. The game had changed. They were already plotting against me, but this time I had the advantage of knowing their tactics. Back in my dorm room, I opened my laptop and began documenting everything I had observed about Lisa. Her class schedule, her study habits, the people she spoke with. I would not let them blindside me again. Rachel returned from the shower, hair wrapped in a towel. "Wanna watch a movie?" I downloaded that new sci-fi film everyone is talking about. I hesitated, then closed my laptop. Actually, yes, I could use a break. As we settled onto her bed with snacks and her laptop, I realized something important. In my past life, I had isolated myself, making it easier for James and Lisa to destroy me. This time, I was building a support system, real friends who would stand by me when I needed them. The movie was just starting when my phone lit up with another text from James. "I hear Stanford is going well. Remember, pride comes before a fall." I blocked the number and turned back to the movie, smiling as Rachel offered me a handful of popcorn. Let them plot and scheme. This time, I was not alone. This time, I was ready. The quantum mechanics lecture hall buzzed with nervous energy as Professor Chen announced our first major research project. Unlike my previous life, I sat alert and prepared, my laptop open to a fresh document. The assignment was exactly as I remembered: design and propose a theoretical experiment exploring quantum entanglement. "You will work in pairs," Professor Chen announced, her sharp eyes scanning the room. "I have already assigned your partners based on your preliminary test scores." My heart raced as she began reading names. Last time, I had been paired with someone else, a quiet girl who had eventually transferred to MIT. But I had changed things by scoring higher on the first exam, knowing the material from my past life. Maya Chen and Lisa Chen. Professor Chen read, glancing up. "No relation, I assume?" I forced a smile, even as my stomach churned. "No relation." Lisa moved to sit beside me, her designer backpack brushing against my arm. She smelled of expensive perfume and ambition. "I have heard great things about you, Maya. Top score on the first exam, right? We should make a good team." I nodded, keeping my expression neutral. In my past life, Lisa had seemed equally friendly at first. Her betrayal had come so gradually that I had not recognized it until it was too late. "Tomorrow after class," I suggested, already forming plans to document every interaction. "We can discuss project ideas." The next day, I arrived at the library early, setting up my laptop to record our conversation. California was a two-party consent state for recordings, but the library had signs clearly stating that security cameras and audio were in use for safety purposes. Lisa arrived precisely on time, sliding into the seat across from me. "I have been thinking about our project. What if we focused on quantum teleportation? There is some fascinating new research about increasing transmission distance." It was a clever suggestion, similar enough to my original groundbreaking research to make me uncomfortable. Actually, I was considering something different. What about exploring decoherence in quantum systems? A flicker of annoyance crossed Lisa's face before her smile returned. "That seems rather basic, do not you think? We should challenge ourselves." The discussion continued for an hour, a careful dance of suggestions and counter-suggestions. I watched Lisa grow increasingly frustrated as I steered us away from anything remotely similar to my future research. As we packed up our books, a tall figure caught my attention. Adrian Zhou, a graduate student, sat at a nearby table surrounded by advanced physics texts. In my past life, he had been one of the few people who had believed me when I accused James and Lisa of theft. Lisa followed my gaze. "Oh, that is Adrian Zhou. He works with Professor Chen's research group. Brilliant, but weird. Barely rarely talks to anyone. I remembered differently. Adrian had been quiet, yes, but also kind and perceptive. He had noticed things others missed. The next few weeks fell into a pattern. Lisa and I met regularly to work on our project, each meeting a careful negotiation. She consistently tried to push us toward more advanced topics, while I insisted on staying focused on our original proposal. Between project sessions, I threw myself into my other classes. This time around, I was determined to build a strong academic foundation. I attended every office hour, joined study groups, and made connections with my professors. One afternoon, I was working late in the physics library when Adrian approached my table. "Your quantum mechanics proposal was interesting," he said quietly, "especially your analysis of environmental interactions during decoherence." I looked up, surprised. "You read our proposal?" I grayed for Professor Chen. He shifted awkwardly, clutching a stack of books. "Your approach was unique. Most students try to tackle flashier topics without understanding the basics." Before I could respond, Lisa appeared between the bookshelves. "Maya, I have been looking for you. We need to discuss some changes to our methodology section." Adrian retreated without another word, disappearing into the stacks. Lisa watched him go with narrowed eyes before turning back to me. "I did not know you were friendly with Adrian. We just met," I said truthfully. "He was commenting on our proposal." Lisa's smile did not reach her eyes. "We should be careful about discussing our work with others. Ideas have a way of spreading." The irony of her warning made me want to laugh. Instead, I gathered my books. Speaking of our work, I saved copies of everything we have done so far. For backup, a shadow crossed Lisa's face, so quick I might have missed it if I had not been watching for it. "Of course, that is very organized of you." That evening, I received a text from an unknown number. "Stay away from Adrian. You will regret it if you do not." I added the number to my growing collection of documented threats, but the warning troubled me. Why would James or Lisa care about my interactions with Adrian? What had changed in this timeline to make him important so much earlier? The answer came a few days later during Professor Chen's office hours. As I waited for my appointment, I overheard her speaking with another faculty member. "Adrian's quantum teleportation research is promising," she was saying. "If his predictions are correct, it could revolutionize the field." My heart skipped a beat. Adrian was already working on concepts similar to what would have been my breakthrough. Research. Did Lisa know? Was that why she had suggested quantum teleportation for our project? When it was my turn to meet with Professor Chen, I asked carefully about research opportunities in her lab. "I am particularly interested in quantum decoherence," I said, watching her reaction. Her eyes lit up. "Actually, we might have an opening next semester. Adrian is looking for an undergraduate assistant for his environmental interaction studies. Would you be interested?" "Very," I replied, pieces falling into place. This was my chance to work on my research legally, properly documented from the beginning. I would love to learn more. As I left her office, I spotted Lisa lurking near the water fountain. I walked past without acknowledging her, my mind racing with possibilities. That night, curled up in my dorm room while Rachel slept peacefully across the room, I planned my next moves. I needed to secure that research position with Adrian. More importantly, I needed to understand what Lisa and James knew about his work. My phone lit up with another text. "Heard you were trying to join Chen's lab. Think carefully about that decision." I copied the message to my evidence file and turned off my phone. Let them threaten me. This time, I would be ready. This time, I would protect not only my research, but Adrian's as well. The quantum mechanics project was due in 2 weeks. Lisa had grown increasingly insistent about adding sections on quantum teleportation, but I stood firm. During our final meeting, she made one last attempt. "I found some fascinating papers on quantum teleportation," she said, sliding them across the table. "We could at least mention them in our discussion section." I glanced at the papers. They were early publications that had influenced my original research. "Our project focuses on decoherence. Adding teleportation would feel forced." Lisa's pleasant mask slipped slightly. "You are being unnecessarily difficult, Maya, almost as if you have something to hide." "The only thing I am hiding is my irritation at your attempts to change our project at the last minute," I replied evenly. "We are submitting it as is." She gathered her papers with sharp movements. "You might think you are clever, Maya, but you are making enemies you cannot afford. Better enemies who show their true colors than friends who stab you in the back," I said, watching her freeze. "Just something to think about." After she stormed off, I sat in the library for a long time, thinking about how different things were this time around. The players were the same, but the game had changed. I was no longer the naive girl who trusted too easily. Adrian emerged from the stacks, hesitating before approaching my table. "Everything okay? That looked intense." "Just project stress," I said, managing a smile. Actually, Professor Chen mentioned you might need a research assistant next semester. He brightened, awkwardness forgotten as he launched into an explanation of his work. As he spoke, I noticed Lisa watching us from behind a bookshelf, her phone held up as if taking photos. Let her watch, I thought. Let her report back to James. This time, I would use their paranoia against them. This time, I would win. The first signs of Lisa's sabotage began subtly. Pages from my research notes would go missing, only to reappear. Hours later, in different folders, data entries in our shared lab documents showed unexplained modifications. If I had not been watching for these exact tactics, I might have doubted my own organization skills. Adrian proved to be an excellent research mentor, patient and thorough in his explanations. We spent long hours in the lab, working on his quantum decoherence experiments. I carefully documented every step of our research, maintaining separate copies of all data, both in the cloud and on an encrypted hard drive. Your understanding of quantum mechanics is impressive, Adrian remarked one evening as we analyzed results. It is almost like you have done this before. I kept my eyes on the computer screen, fighting back a smile. I just find it fascinating, the way particles maintain their quantum correlations despite environmental interference. Lisa appeared in the doorway, a stack of papers in her arms. Professor Chen asked me to drop these off, she said, watching us with calculated interest. Working late again? Just finishing up, I replied, noting how her gaze lingered on our computer screens. Thanks for the papers. After she left, Adrian frowned. She has been around the lab a lot lately, always when we are working on the teleportation aspects, so he had noticed too. Does that concern you? Maybe? He ran an eye, hand through his disheveled hair. Last week, I found someone had accessed my research files after hours. The login showed my credentials, but I was at a conference in Berkeley. My heart raced. This was new. In my previous life, Lisa and James had not made their move until graduate school. Have you reported it? To IT security, yes. They are investigating. He looked troubled. I should probably warn you to be extra careful with your login credentials. That night, I added Adrian's revelation to my growing file of evidence. A pattern was emerging, different from before, but equally concerning. Lisa was making her moves earlier, perhaps because of James's influence. Rachel looked up from her textbook as I typed. You know, Lisa asked me about you the other day. Wanted to know if you ever talked about your research in your sleep. What? Did you tell her? That it was a weird question and she should ask you directly. Rachel closed her book. She gives me creepy never really saying why she is here. I had never told Rachel about my past life or my suspicions about Lisa, but my roommate's instincts were good. Thanks for letting me know. If she asks anything else unusual, could you tell me? The next day in the lab, I noticed small inconsistencies in our experimental data. Numbers that should have matched previous trials showed slight variations. When I mentioned it to Adrian, his expression darkened. I found similar discrepancies last week, he admitted, small enough to look like measurement errors, but too consistent to be random. We spent the afternoon reconstructing our data sets, comparing original entries with current values. The pattern was clear. Someone was systematically altering our results, introducing subtle errors that could undermine our findings. We need to set a trap, I suggested, an idea forming. Create a dummy experiment with intentionally flawed methodology. See if anyone takes the bait, Adrian caught on quickly, and monitor who accesses the files. Smart. He paused, looking uncertain. Maya, can I ask you something? Why did you really choose to work with me instead of joining Professor Chen's main research group? The question caught me off guard. In my previous life, I had been too focused on my own work to notice Adrian's project until it was too late. I believe in your research, I said honestly, and I trust you. His cheeks reddened slightly, but before he could respond, my phone buzzed with a text. Getting close to Adrian will not protect you. Some people need to learn their place. I showed Adrian the message. His face hardened as he read it. You have been getting threats? Why did not you say anything? I have been documenting everything, I assured him, pulling up my evidence file. Every message, every suspicious incident. I learned the hard way that having proof matters. We spent the next hour reviewing my documentation. Adrian grew increasingly agitated as he recognized patterns matching the interference with his own research. This is bigger than just academic rivalry, he said finally. Someone is systematically trying to access and discredit our work. But why? I thought about telling him everything then, about my past life and how Lisa and James had stolen my research. But the time was not right. Without proof, I would sound paranoid. Instead, I focused on our immediate problem. We need to protect our current research first. Then we can figure out the why. Over the next few weeks, we implemented several security measures. All our data was triple backed up, with one copy stored off-site. We installed keystroke loggers on our lab computers and set up hidden cameras to monitor after-hours access. Lisa continued her subtle campaign of disruption. Equipment would be slightly miscalibrated before important trials. Power supplies would mysteriously fail during critical measurements. Each incident was minor enough to explain away, but together they formed a clear pattern of sabotage. What she did not know was that we were recording everything. Every apparent accident, every suspicious failure was documented and added to our growing body of evidence. One evening, as I was leaving the lab, I overheard Lisa on her phone in the stairwell. "It is taking longer than expected," she was saying. "They are being more careful this time." "No, I have not gotten access to the main research files yet." I recorded the conversation on my phone, careful to stay out of sight. James's voice was just barely audible through the speaker. "Keep trying. Those theories could be worth millions. If we can get them first." My hands shook as I added the recording to my evidence file. They were after Adrian's research, just as they had targeted mine before. But this time, I was here to stop them. Rachel noticed my distraction when I returned to our room. "Rough day in the lab?" "Something like that." I hesitated, then decided to confide in her. "I think someone is trying to steal our research." She set aside her laptop, giving me her full attention. "The same someone who keeps texting you threats. You notice those?" "Maya, you practically jump every time your phone buzzes." She moved to sit beside me on my bed. "Plus, I saw Lisa trying to get into our room last week when she thought I was at class." My blood ran cold. "What?" "Do not worry. I caught her before she could get in. She claimed she was looking for you, but her face when I appeared, pure guilt." I hugged Rachel impulsively. "Thank you for telling me, and for having my back." She hugged me back. "That is what friends are for. Now, want to tell me what is really going on?" I told her everything I could without mentioning my past life. About the sabotaged experiments, the altered data, the threatening messages. Rachel listened without interrupting, her expression growing increasingly concerned. "You need to report this," she said when I finished. "I will," I promised, "once I have enough evidence that they cannot wiggle out of it." The next day in the lab, Adrian and I discovered that our dummy experiment had worked. Someone had accessed the intentionally flawed data and made copies. The keystroke logger revealed the time and login credentials used. Lisa's account at 2 a.m. "Got you," Adrian muttered, reviewing the logs. "But why would she want deliberately flawed research? To discredit us," I explained. "If these results were published, they would be easily disproven. Our reputations would be ruined." He looked at me curiously. "You sound very certain about that." "Just following the logical conclusion," I said quickly. "We should take this to Professor Chen." But before we could, another text arrived. "Last chance, Maya. Drop the research assistant position, or everyone will learn what a fraud you are." I showed Adrian the message, watching his face darken with anger. "We need to end this now," he said. "I will not let them threaten you or compromise our work." Looking at his determined expression, I felt something shift inside me. In my past life, I had faced Lisa and James's betrayal alone. This time, I had real allies. This time, I was stronger. "Agreed," I said, pulling up our evidence file. "Let us show them exactly who they are dealing with." The library security cameras caught Lisa meeting James near the physics section at midnight. I watched the footage with Rachel and Adrian in the security office, my heart pounding as James handed Lisa what looked like a flash drive. "That explains how she got your login credentials," Rachel whispered. "They must have installed a keylogger weeks ago." The head of campus security, Officer Martinez, rewound the footage. "We have them on camera 6 times in the past month, always after hours." "Miss Chen, you said this relates to the research theft allegations?" I nodded, opening my laptop to show him our evidence file. Every instance of data manipulation, every threatening message, every suspicious lab access. It is all documented here. Adrian leaned forward, pointing at specific dates. "These meetings correspond exactly with the times our research data was altered. They have been systematically targeting our quantum teleportation project." Officer Martinez reviewed the evidence carefully. "This is serious. Corporate espionage level serious. Have you discussed this with your faculty advisor?" "We have a meeting with Professor Chen tomorrow morning," I confirmed. "We wanted to gather all the evidence first." That night, I could barely sleep. Everything was happening differently this time. In my past life, I had not discovered Lisa and James's betrayal until it was too late, until they had already published my research under their names. Rachel's voice came through the darkness. "You should have seen your face when we caught them on camera. You looked almost satisfied, like you had been waiting for this moment." I turned to face her bed. "I guess I just hate seeing people get away with hurting others. There is more to it than that, she said softly. Sometimes I feel like you know things, like you can see moves ahead in a game none of us knew we were playing. Before I could respond, both our phones lit up with text notifications, the same message from an unknown number. You really should learn to mind your own business. Charming, Rachel muttered. Should we add this to the evidence file? Already. Done. I sat up, fully awake now. They are getting desperate. That means we are close to stopping them. The meeting with Professor Chen the next morning was intense. She listened without interruption as we presented our evidence, her expression growing increasingly grave. This goes beyond academic misconduct, she said finally. They are attempting to steal proprietary research funded by government grants. That is a federal offense. Adrian spread out the data logs showing the systematic alterations. We think they were planning to publish our research first, using the stolen data and discredited experiments to challenge our credibility if we fought back. Professor Chen's eyes narrowed. Just like the Morrison case last year at MIT, a graduate student tried to steal their advisor's quantum computing research. The same pattern of sabotage and intimidation. I felt a chill. I had never heard about this case in my past life. Had Lisa and James been practicing their tactics before targeting me? What do we do now? Adrian asked. First, we secure all our research data. I am pulling your project from the shared servers immediately. Professor Chen began typing rapidly on her computer. Then we meet with the dean and university legal counsel. As we left her office, Lisa was waiting in the hallway. Her usual polite mask was gone, replaced by cold calculation. Making accusations? Maya, that is not very collegial of you. Neither is corporate espionage, I replied calmly. But we all Her eyes flickered to Adrian. Some people should stick to basic research instead of reaching beyond their capabilities. Quantum teleportation is a complex field. Is that what James told you? I watched her face pale slightly. Or did you come up with that rationalization on your own? Before she could respond, Professor Chen emerged from her office. Miss Chen, please come with me. The dean would like to speak with you. I watched them walk away, feeling strangely light. This confrontation had gone so differently from my memories. This time, I was not the one being summoned to explain myself. This time, I held the power. Adrian touched my arm gently. You knew, did not you, about James being involved? I had my suspicions, I admitted. Their pattern was too familiar. He studied my face. You are not telling me everything, but I trust you. Whatever happens next, we face it together. Back in the lab, we began rebuilding our corrupted data sets. The work was tedious but crucial. Every piece of valid research had to be separated from Lisa's subtle manipulations. Look at this, Adrian called out, pointing to his screen. The alterations were not random. They were specifically targeting the quantum coherence measurements, the exact data that proves our theory works. I leaned over his shoulder, recognizing the pattern. They were laying groundwork to claim we faked our results. If they published first, they could accuse us of copying them and manipulating data to cover it up. That is disturbingly thorough planning. They had practice, I muttered, then caught myself. I mean, it fits their pattern of behavior. Adrian gave me a long look, but did not press further. Instead, he pulled up another set of files. Help me check these correlation functions. We need everything perfect before the review committee meets. We worked late into the night, reconstructing our research piece by piece. Rachel brought us dinner, keeping watch while we worked. The threats had stopped after Lisa's meeting with the dean, but we were not taking chances. Campus security just reported James trying to enter the physics building, Rachel announced around midnight. They escorted him off campus with a warning. I saved our latest calculations. Fighting exhaustion. He will not give up easily. Neither will Lisa. They have too much invested in stealing this research. Why quantum teleportation? Rachel wondered. I mean, I know it is groundbreaking, but there are other valuable projects they could have targeted. Because they succeeded in stealing it once before, I thought, but did not say. Instead, I explained, quantum teleportation could revolutionize secure communications. Any advance in the field is worth millions to the right buyers. Speaking of which, Adrian interrupted, staring at his screen. I just found something interesting in Lisa's application files. She did a summer internship at Quantum Tech Industries, the same company that tried to poach researchers from MIT last year. My fingers flew across the keyboard, pulling up the MIT case Professor Chen had mentioned. The graduate student who tried to steal the quantum computing research, was he also connected to Quantum Tech? Adrian's eyes widened as he read. Yes. And guess who else interned there? James Sullivan. The pieces clicked into place. This was bigger than personal betrayal. Lisa and James were corporate spies, using universities to access cutting-edge research. We need to tell Professor Chen, I said, already composing an email. This connects everything. Rachel peered at our screens. Should we be worried about quantum tech retaliating? They sound pretty serious. That is why we document everything, I assured her, thinking of my past life's mistakes. No one can twist the truth if we have proof. As if on cue, my phone lit up with an email from an anonymous account. Inside was a single image, a photograph of me and Adrian working late in the lab, taken without our knowledge. Someone has been watching us, Adrian said quietly, reading over my shoulder. I added the email to our evidence file, my hands steady despite my racing heart. Let them watch. We have nothing to hide, because this time, I knew exactly what I was fighting for. This time, I would not let anyone steal my future or Adrian's research. This time, we would win. The news of James's transfer to Stanford hit me during morning quantum mechanics class. I was reviewing my notes when Lisa slid into the seat next to me, her smile sharp as a knife. Guess who just got accepted as a transfer student? Your old friend, James Sullivan. He will be joining us next semester. My grip tightened on my pen, but I kept my voice steady. That must be difficult for him, leaving State University mid-year. I wonder what motivated such a sudden change. Lisa's smile widened. Sometimes people realize their true potential lies elsewhere. James has always been interested in quantum. It almost made me laugh. In my past life, James had barely passed basic physics. His only interest in the field had been using my research for profit. How fascinating, I replied, turning back to my notes. I look forward to seeing his contributions to the department. Professor Chen began her lecture, but I could barely focus. James's transfer changed everything. In my previous life, I had not seen him again until graduate school. His early arrival meant they were accelerating their plans. After class, I headed straight to the lab where Adrian was calibrating equipment. We have a problem. James Sullivan just transferred to Stanford. Adrian looked up sharply. The same James from your evidence file? The one working with Lisa? The same. I sank into a chair, mind racing. This is not a coincidence. They are planning something. We need to tell Professor Chen and campus security, Adrian said, already reaching for his phone. His transfer should be blocked given the ongoing investigation. But I knew it would not be that simple. They will have covered their tracks. On paper, James will look like a perfect transfer student. Adrian studied my face. You seem very certain about how they operate. I have seen this pattern before, I said carefully. It was becoming harder to hide the truth about my past life, especially from Adrian. Corporate espionage often follows predictable strategies. Before he could question me further, Rachel burst into the lab. Maya, you need to see this. She pulled up the physics department website on her phone. There, under newly approved research grants, was James's name alongside Lisa's. They had somehow secured funding for a quantum teleportation study nearly identical to Adrian's project. How is this possible? Adrian demanded, reading the project description. This is practically a copy of our research. They must have submitted the grant proposal weeks ago, I realized, using the data they stole from us. Rachel crossed her arms. Can they do that? Just steal your research and get it approved under their names? Not legally, Adrian growled, but proving it will be complicated. I remembered how this had played out in my past life. By the time I had gathered enough evidence of theft, my reputation had been thoroughly destroyed. We need to move fast, I said, pulling up our evidence file, before they can establish themselves as the original researchers. The next few days were a blur of meetings with university officials. Professor Chen presented our documentation of Lisa's sabotage and the stolen data. The dean listened gravely, but legal complications slowed the process. Quantum Tech Industries is claiming prior art, Professor Chen informed us after one particularly long meeting. They say James and Lisa developed these theories during their internships. That is impossible, Adrian protested. The theoretical framework is based on my original research from last year. I had been expecting this move. We need to prove the timeline, show exactly when each development occurred. We spent hours reconstructing the chronology of Adrian's research, documenting every breakthrough and setback. Rachel helped us cross-reference dates with lab access logs and security footage. Then James arrived on campus. I saw him first in the physics building courtyard, talking with a group of students. He looked exactly as I remembered, confident and charming, showing no sign of the calculated manipulator I knew him to be. He spotted me before I could retreat. Maya, what a surprise running into you here. Is it? I kept my distance, aware of the other students watching. Considering you transferred specifically to this department, his smile never wavered. I simply followed my academic interests. Quantum physics is fascinating, do not you think? So many possibilities, so many opportunities for profit, you mean? I met his gaze steadily. Tell me, does quantum tech pay well for stolen research? A flash of anger crossed his face before he controlled it. Careful, Maya. False accusations can ruin careers. Yours, for instance. Truth tends to come out eventually, I replied, thinking of of my past life, no matter how carefully you try to bury it. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. You really should have stayed at State University with me. Things would have been so much simpler. For you, maybe. I stood my ground. I prefer complexity to compromise. Later that day, I found Adrian in Professor Chen's office, looking troubled. Quantum Tech filed a patent application, he announced, using our research methodology. Professor Chen nodded grimly. They are moving faster than we expected. The university legal team is preparing a challenge, but these cases can take years. Years we do not have, I said, remembering how my career had been destroyed while waiting for legal vindication. We need a different approach. Adrian ran his hands through his hair. What do you suggest? We cannot publish while the patent dispute is ongoing. An idea formed, based on what I wished I had done in my past life. What if we prove their results are fraudulent, not just stolen, but fundamentally flawed? Professor Chen leaned forward. What do you mean? The data they stole was incomplete, I explained. They do not have our latest corrections or the full theoretical framework. If we can force them to present their research. Adrian caught on. Quickly, their results would not hold up to scrutiny. We could expose the fraud publicly. It is risky, Professor Chen warned. If we fail, they could discredit us instead. They will try to discredit us anyway, I said with certainty. At least this way we choose the battlefield. We spent the next week preparing our strategy. Rachel helped us identify vulnerabilities in Lisa and James's stolen data. Adrian refined our theoretical proofs, making them ironclad. Then, James made his move. He approached me after quantum mechanics class, his old manipulative charm in full force. Maya, can we talk? Privately? I agreed, but made sure we remained in the crowded hallway. What do you want, James? To offer you a deal. He smiled persuasively. Quantum Tech is very interested in your contributions. They are willing to offer you a research position, very well paid, in exchange for dropping the theft allegations, in exchange for being reasonable. He touched my arm, just like he used to. Think about it. We could work together again, like we planned. I stepped back, breaking contact. We never planned anything together, James. You planned, I obeyed. That dynamic ended when I chose Stanford. His expression hardened. This is your last chance, Maya. After this, things get unpleasant. They already are, I replied, thinking of both lives. But this time, I am ready for whatever you try. I walked away, leaving him staring after me. My phone buzzed with a text from Adrian. Emergency meeting in lab. They just announced their first results. Time to put our plan into action. This time, I would not let them win. The physics department auditorium buzzed with anticipation as Lisa and James prepared to present their quantum teleportation research. I sat between Adrian and Rachel, our own comprehensive documentation ready on our laptops. They look awfully confident, Rachel whispered, watching Lisa arrange her presentation materials. They think they have covered every angle, I replied, remembering my past life's bitter lessons. Pride comes before a fall. Professor Chen stood to introduce the presentation, her face carefully neutral. Today we have a special colloquium on recent advances in quantum teleportation theory, presented by Lisa Chen and James Sullivan in collaboration with Quantum Tech Industries. James took the podium first, smooth and polished in his corporate sponsor's suit. Thank you all for coming. We are excited to share our breakthrough findings in quantum state transmission. I watched him launch into their stolen research, noting every slight deviation from Adrian's original work. Beside me, Adrian typed rapidly, documenting each discrepancy. Then Lisa began describing their experimental results. This was where their theft would become evident. Without access to our latest corrections, their data could not possibly match the theoretical predictions. As you can see, Lisa gestured to her graphs, our results show consistent quantum state fidelity above classical limits. I raised my hand, waiting to be acknowledged. Could you explain the error correction methodology used in these trials? Lisa faltered slightly. We employed standard quantum error correction protocols. Standard protocols would not account for environmental decoherence at these distances, I pressed. Unless you have developed new correction algorithms, the trap was set. Lisa glanced at James, who stepped forward smoothly. Our proprietary methods are currently under patent review. Interesting, Adrian spoke up, because these results appear identical to experiments conducted in our lab using methodology we developed. The audience stirred, several professors leaning forward with increased interest. James maintained his confident smile, but I saw sweat forming on his forehead. Great minds often reach similar conclusions, he deflected, but our work was developed independently during our quantum tech internships. Professor Chen raised her hand. Could you share the dates of these developments? For academic record, Lisa shuffled through her papers, buying time. I pulled up our chronological documentation, waiting for the perfect moment. Our initial breakthroughs occurred last summer, Lisa claimed. The theoretical framework was completed by September. That would be difficult, I said clearly, considering Adrian published the foundational theorems in August. Would you like to revise your timeline? The auditorium went. These accusations are unfounded. Quantum Tech has already filed patents. Patents based on stolen research, Adrian declared, projecting our evidence onto the screen. We have proof of systematic data theft and manipulation. What followed was academic chaos. Questions flew from all directions as Lisa and James tried desperately to defend their claims. But we had prepared too thoroughly, documented too carefully. Professor Chen finally restored order. I believe we need to suspend this presentation pending a full investigation. The department will review all materials presented today. As the audience filed out, buzzing with discussion, James grabbed my arm. You think you are clever, do not you? This is not over. Actually, it is. I pulled free, nodding toward the back of the auditorium where Officer Martinez stood watching. The university police would like to discuss your unauthorized access to secure research facilities. Lisa's face had gone pale. You cannot prove anything. Quantum Tech's lawyers cannot protect you from federal charges, Adrian finished. Corporate espionage is a serious crime. Rachel appeared at my side. Phone held up. I recorded everything, including that little threat just now. We watched as Officer Martinez approached, accompanied by 2 FBI agents. James and Lisa were escorted out separately, their faces a mixture of rage and fear. Professor Chen gathered our team in her office afterward. Well done, all of you. The university is already in contact with the patent office to challenge Quantum Tech's applications. What happens now? Rachel asked. A full investigation, I replied, feeling lighter than I had in either lifetime. Everything will be examined, every piece of evidence reviewed. Adrian touched my hand gently. You knew exactly how to trap them, like you had seen their playbook before. I met his questioning gaze, wondering if it was finally time to tell him the full truth. But before I could decide, Professor Chen's phone rang. Yes, Dean? I see. Yes, they are all here with me. She looked up gravely. Quantum Tech's lawyers are requesting an emergency meeting. They are claiming whistleblower status for James and Lisa. What does that mean? Rachel demanded. It means they are trying to flip the script, I realized. Paint themselves as victims who discovered corporate corruption. Adrian squeezed my hand. Let them try. We have the truth on our side this time. This time. The words echoed in my mind as I squeezed back. Yes. This time was different. This time, I was not alone. This time, we would see justice done. Schedule the meeting, I told Professor Chen. We are ready for whatever they throw at us. Because unlike my past life, I knew exactly how this game was played, and I intended to win. Maya, Adrian said softly as we left the office, whatever you are not telling me about how you knew all, this would happen. I trust you. When you are ready to explain, I will listen. I looked at him, seeing the same kindness that had helped me recover from betrayal in my past life. Soon, I promised, after we finish this fight. Rachel linked arms with us both. Well, I do not know about secret past lives or whatever is going on, but I have got both your backs. I laughed, startled. What makes you think? Please, she rolled her eyes. You definitely know more than you should, but you are using it to stop bad people. So I am Team Maya all the way. Looking at my friends, I felt truly hopeful for the first time since waking up in my younger body. The past might have given me knowledge, but these relationships, this support, that was all new. This time, I would not just survive betrayal. This time, I would thrive. The emergency meeting with Quantum Tech's lawyers took place in the dean's conference room. I sat between Adrian and Professor Chen, facing down a table of expensive suits, and practiced smiles. Our clients have brought serious allegations of research misconduct, the lead lawyer began, sliding folders across the table. We have evidence that Mr. Zhou's quantum teleportation project violated corporate confidentiality agreements. I opened the folder, unsurprised to find carefully doctored documentation suggesting Adrian had stolen research during a rejected internship application to Quantum Tech. Interesting timeline, I commented, pulling out our own files, especially since Adrian's theoretical framework was published before your clients began their internships. The lawyer's smile tightened. We have proof of earlier development dates. Falsified proof, Adrian interjected, spreading out his original research notes. Every page dated and notarized. Would you like to explain how I supposedly stole research? That did not exist yet? James and Lisa sat silently at the far end of the table, their faces strained. strained. I could see the moment they realized their backup plan was failing. Professor Chen leaned forward. Furthermore, your clients accessing secure research facilities without authorization. The FBI is particularly interested in the corporate connection. We are prepared to offer a settlement. Another lawyer quickly interjected. Quantum Tech values academic collaboration. You mean they value stealing academic research? I corrected. How many other universities have your clients targeted? The dean, who had been quietly observing, finally spoke. We have contacted MIT regarding their similar case last year. They are very interested in comparing notes. I watched James's face pale. He had not known about the MIT connection. Lisa looked equally shocked. Quantum Tech had kept them in the dark about their larger espionage operation. Our clients acted independently, the lead lawyer tried, but his confidence was cracking. Did they? I pulled up emails we had recovered showing direct communication between Quantum Tech executives and James, because these suggest corporate direction and compensation. The meeting devolved into legal threats and counter-threats. I kept my focus on James and Lisa, watching them realize they were being abandoned by their corporate sponsors. Finally, Lisa broke. Wait, I want to revise my statement. The lawyers tried to silence her, but she shrugged them off. Quantum Tech recruited me during my internship. They said they needed inside access to university research. James was already working for them at State University. James lunged to his feet. Shut up, Lisa. You will ruin everything. It is already ruined, she snapped. They are going to let us take the fall while they deny everything. The lawyers began packing their briefcases, but campus security blocked the door. Officer Martinez stepped forward. I believe the FBI agents would like to continue this discussion downtown. What followed was a flurry of activity. James and Lisa were escorted out separately, both now willing to testify against Quantum Tech. The lawyers hurried to damage control, phones already pressed to their ears. Well, Professor Chen said into the sudden quiet, I believe that settles the patent dispute. Adrian gathered our documentation, his hands shaking slightly. I cannot believe they tried to claim I stole my own research. I said softly, remembering my past life. Companies like Quantum Tech rely on young researchers being too intimidated to fight back. The dean cleared his throat. The university will be pressing full charges. Your research will be protected, Mr. Zhou. Miss Chen, your assistance in exposing this operation has been invaluable. Rachel was waiting outside with coffee and questions. Did they crack? Tell me they cracked. I accepted a cup gratefully. Complete meltdown. Lisa turned on Quantum Tech, then James turned on everyone. Classic honor among thieves, she grinned. Or lack thereof. Adrian touched my shoulder gently. We should celebrate. Dinner? My treat. Looking at his hopeful expression, I felt my heart skip. In my past life, I had been too broken by betrayal to recognize his feelings or acknowledge my own. Dinner sounds perfect, I agreed. Rachel made exaggerated shooing motions. Go. Be nerdy and romantic. I will handle the paperwork with campus. Security. Over dinner at a quiet Thai restaurant, Adrian finally asked the question I had been expecting. How did you know exactly how to handle them? It was like you could predict their every move. I took a deep breath, then told him everything. About my past life, the stolen research, the destroyed career, about recognizing the patterns and refusing to let history repeat itself. He listened without interrupting, his expression thoughtful. When I finished, he reached across the table to take my hand. I believe you, he said simply. I blinked back tears. Just like that? You have never lied to me. Everything you did was to protect our research and expose real criminals. He squeezed my hand. Whether you lived this before or just have amazing intuition does not change who you are now. Looking into his understanding eyes, I felt the last walls around my heart begin to crumble. This time, I could trust. This time, I could love without fear. Thank you, I whispered, for believing in me, for standing with me. He smiled, that same gentle smile that had helped me heal before. Always. My phone buzzed with a text from Rachel. FBI raiding Quantum Tech offices. Lisa singing like a canary. James trying to plea bargain. We got them. I showed Adrian the message, feeling lighter than I had in either lifetime. It is really over. The criminal part, yes. He gestured to our half-finished dinner. But I hope other things are just beginning. I would like that, I said softly, meaning it with all my heart. Because this time, I had not just survived betrayal. This time, I had found something real. The physics department auditorium was packed for our official research presentation. National After news. The Quantum Tech. Interest in our quantum teleportation project had skyrocketed. Adrian stood at the podium, confidently explaining our theoretical framework. I watched from my seat in the front row, pride swelling in my chest. This was how it should have been in my past life, before James and Lisa stole everything. The key breakthrough came in understanding how quantum coherence could be maintained across previously impossible distances, Adrian explained, displaying our data. Thanks to Maya Chen's innovative error correction algorithm, algorithms, we achieved stable quantum state transmission beyond classical limitations. Professor Chen beamed from her seat beside me. The audience was completely engaged, leading quantum physicists from around the country nodding in appreciation of our achievements. When it was my turn to present the experimental results, I felt none of the nervousness that had plagued me before. This time, I knew our research was bulletproof, our evidence undeniable. As you can see from these trials, I gestured to the comprehensive data sets, we maintained quantum fidelity above 98% across distances exceeding current records. The questions afterward were enthusiastic and supportive. No accusations, no attempts to discredit our work, just genuine scientific interest and excitement about the possibilities our research opened up. The implications for secure quantum communications are staggering, one prominent physicist commented. This could revolutionize the field. Rachel recorded everything from the back row, grinning proudly. She had become our unofficial documentarian, ensuring every breakthrough was properly credited and dated. After the presentation, Adrian and I found ourselves surrounded by colleagues offering congratulations and collaboration opportunities. The dean appeared with more good news. The patent office has officially rejected Quantum Tech's applications, he announced. Your research is fully protected under university patents, with both of you listed as primary inventors. I caught Adrian's eye across the crowd, sharing a moment of quiet triumph. In my past life, this validation had been stolen from me. This time, we had won together. The FBI investigation into Quantum Tech was expanding. Lisa's testimony had exposed a systematic campaign of academic espionage targeting multiple universities. James had tried to cut a deal, but his role as a recruiter for their scheme had earned him serious charges. Professor Chen gathered our research team for a celebratory dinner that evening. I have some exciting news, she announced once we were seated. The Quantum Physics Fellowship Committee has reviewed your work. They want to offer both of you early admission to the PhD program. Adrian nearly choked on his wine. But we are still undergraduates. Exceptional circumstances warrant exceptional opportunities, Professor Chen smiled. Your breakthrough research has earned this acceleration. I felt tears threatening. In my past life, my academic career had ended in disgrace. Now I was being offered my dream opportunity years ahead of schedule. There is more, Professor Chen continued. The National Science Foundation wants to fund an expanded research initiative under my supervision, with you two as lead researchers. Rachel raised her glass in a toast to the Quantum Dream Team, and to Maya for being smart enough to document everything. Later that night, Adrian walked me back to my dorm. The campus was quiet, peaceful under the stars that had once seemed to mock my shattered dreams. I have been thinking, he said, softly, about everything you told me, about your past life. I tensed slightly. What about it? It must have been incredibly lonely carrying those memories, knowing what could happen but not being able to explain how you knew. The understanding in his voice undid me. It was, but this time I had you, and Rachel, and Professor Chen. I was not alone. He stopped walking, turning to face me. You will never be alone again, if you will have me. Looking into his eyes, I saw the future I had been too wounded to imagine in my past life. I will have you, in this life, and any others that might come. He kissed me then, under the same stars that had witnessed my rebirth. This time, there was no fear, no doubt, no shadow of betrayal. My phone buzzed with a text from Rachel. Stop making out and check the news. Quantum Tech CEO just resigned. We won. I showed Adrian the message, laughing through happy tears. We really did win. We did more than win, he said, pulling me close again. We changed the future. Because this time, I had not just avoided my past mistakes. This time, I had built something beautiful from the ashes of what was lost. This time, love, and truth had won. The fallout from the Quantum Tech scandal dominated academic news for weeks. Lisa's detailed testimony exposed a corporate espionage network targeting research universities. The FBI investigation expanded to include multiple technology companies and compromised researchers. James faced federal charges for his role as a recruiter. His attempts to plea bargain failed when evidence emerged of similar operations at State University. The brilliant, manipulative boyfriend who had once destroyed my career was reduced to headlines about corporate corruption. I watched the news coverage from the comfort of our new research lab, fully funded by the National Science Foundation. Adrian worked beside me, our quantum teleportation experiments yielding increasingly promising results. Standard Stanford Daily wants to interview us again, Rachel announced, waving her phone. They are doing a follow-up piece on academic integrity and corporate influence in research. Tell them we are busy revolutionizing quantum physics, Adrian replied, without looking up from his calculations. Professor Chen entered with more updates. The patent office has officially registered your quantum error correction algorithms. Congratulations, Dr. Chen and Dr. Zhou. The formal titles still felt strange. After the scandal, the university had fast-tracked our PhD applications. We were now the youngest research fellows in Stanford's physics department history. The MIT group wants to collaborate on extending the transmission range, I said, pulling up their proposal. Their quantum computing expertise could be valuable. Adrian nodded thoughtfully. We should invite them out next month, show them the new equipment setup. Rachel documented everything in her role as project coordinator. She had turned down several journalism jobs to stay with our team, claiming quantum physics was more exciting than regular news. Just got the final confirmation, she reported. Lisa took a plea deal, 5 years plus full cooperation with ongoing investigations. James got 12 years for orchestrating multiple thefts. I felt a complex mix of emotions. In my past life, they had succeeded in stealing my research and destroying my reputation. Now they would be remembered as cautionary tales in academic ethics. Quantum tech stock is still falling, Adrian noted, showing me the financial news. 3 more executives resigned this morning. Professor Chen gathered us for an impromptu meeting. The university board has approved our proposal for a dedicated quantum research center. We will be breaking ground next semester. The validation was overwhelming. Everything I had lost before was being restored tenfold. But more importantly, I had genuine relationships built on trust and shared passion for discovery. That evening, Adrian surprised me with dinner reservations at our favorite Thai restaurant, the same place where I had first told him about my past life. I have been thinking, he said as we finished our curry, about parallel universes and quantum possibilities. What about them? Your past life. What if it was not just memory, but actual quantum entanglement across timelines? Your consciousness maintaining coherence through rebirth. I laughed softly. Are you suggesting my reincarnation was a quantum phenomenon? Why not? His eyes sparkled with scientific curiosity. It would explain your detailed knowledge of potential futures, like observing multiple quantum states simultaneously. Only, you would try to explain reincarnation with physics, I teased, but my heart swelled with affection. Rachel called as we were leaving the restaurant. You need to see this. Lisa sent a letter from prison. We met her in the lab, where she pulled up the scanned pages on her tablet. Lisa's handwriting was shaky, but legible. Dear Maya and Adrian, I am writing to apologize, not just for trying to steal your research, but for believing I needed to hurt others to succeed. You proved that real breakthroughs come from collaboration and integrity, not corporate espionage. I read the rest silently, noting her descriptions of quantum tech's systematic corruption of young researchers. Her testimony had helped expose dozens of similar operations. She wants to help train university research departments to recognize corporate infiltration attempts, Rachel explained. After she serves her sentence, people can change, Adrian said quietly, squeezing my hand. Sometimes they just need to face the consequences of their choices first. Looking around our lab, at the fruits of our honest work, I felt profound gratitude for this second chance. Not just at life, but at doing things right. Professor Chen found us still working late that night. The Quantum Research Center Committee wants your input on the facility design. They are fast-tracking construction to capitalize on our momentum. We spent hours discussing laboratory layouts and equipment specifications. This center would be our legacy, a place where future physicists could pursue breakthrough research without fear of corporate theft. We should build in comprehensive, thinking of past vulnerabilities, both physical and digital. Already ahead of you, Rachel said, pulling up detailed plans. State-of-the-art everything. No one will ever steal research from this facility. Adrian added his own. Suggestions for specialized quantum measurement equipment. His brilliant mind constantly pushed the boundaries of what was possible. As we worked, I marveled at how different everything was from my past life. Instead of isolation and betrayal, I had partnership and support. Instead of stolen dreams, I had expanding possibilities. My phone buzzed with news alerts about the ongoing quantum tech investigation. James and Lisa's faces stared from the headlines, but they no longer held any power over me. Ready to head home? Adrian asked softly, noticing my distraction. Home. Such a simple word, but it meant everything. Home was not just a place now, but these people who had helped me reclaim my future. Yes, I smiled, gathering my things. Let us go home. Because this time, I had built something real. This time, Truth and integrity had prevailed. This time, love had won. Spring brought new beginnings in more ways than one. The Quantum Research Center was taking shape, its modern architecture rising against the Stanford skyline. Our expanded team worked tirelessly, pushing the boundaries of quantum teleportation with each experiment. Rachel burst into the lab one morning, waving a newspaper. They sentenced the quantum tech executives, 20 years for the CEO, 15 for the board members who knew about the espionage program. I looked up from my calculations, feeling a deep sense of closure. The corporate machine that had enabled James and Lisa's betrayal was being dismantled piece by piece. The university board approved our proposal for an ethics oversight committee, Adrian added, pulling up the official email. Every corporate research partnership will be thoroughly vetted. Professor Chen called us into her office later that day. The National Science Foundation wants to expand our funding. They are impressed with the security protocols we developed after the quantum tech incident. Our quantum teleportation experiments had exceeded all expectations. The error correction algorithms I developed, combined with Adrian's theoretical framework, achieved transmission distances previously thought impossible. MIT sent their latest results, Rachel reported, organizing our collaboration data. Their quantum computing integration is showing promising preliminary outcomes. I remembered my past life, how isolated and competitive academic research had been. Now we were building networks of trust and cooperation, sharing breakthroughs while maintaining proper security. The lab had become my sanctuary, filled with honest work and genuine relationships. Adrian worked beside me, our minds in perfect sync as we explored quantum possibilities. Rachel kept everything running smoothly, her journalistic instincts protecting our discoveries. One evening, as we calibrated equipment for the next day's trials, Adrian grew unusually quiet. I have been thinking about parallel universes again. Still trying to explain my reincarnation with physics? Not exactly. He adjusted a setting carefully. More about choices and consequences, how small decisions can create entirely different futures. I thought about my past life, how choosing to follow James to State University had set me on a path to betrayal and loss. Some choices matter more than others, like choosing Stanford, he said softly, like choosing to trust me instead of him. My heart swelled with emotion. Those choices led me here, to this life, this work, this love. Rachel interrupted our moment, but her timing was perfect as always. The contractors need final approval on the Quantum Research Center's security systems. Also, dinner is getting cold. We gathered in our usual corner of the lab, sharing takeout and discussing the future. The center would open in fall, bringing new researchers and opportunities. Lisa wrote again, Rachel mentioned between bites. She is developing an academic integrity program for science departments. Several universities are interested. The news did not hurt anymore. Lisa's redemption arc felt right, a chance for her to make amends by protecting other young researchers from corporate exploitation. James filed another appeal, Adrian added carefully, watching my reaction. It was denied. I nodded, unsurprised. He still does not understand that actions have consequences. Professor Chen joined us with more updates. The patent office wants you both to consult on new protocols for protecting quantum research innovations. Your experience with quantum tech made you experts in prevention. The irony was not lost on me. My past life's tragedy had equipped me to protect others from similar fates. Later that night, Adrian and I walked through campus, enjoying the peaceful evening, its windows reflecting starlight. Sometimes I wonder, he said thoughtfully, if your past life was meant to prevent something bigger than personal betrayal. If you needed to expose quantum tech's entire operation. I considered his theory, maybe. Or maybe we just proved that integrity and collaboration achieve more than theft and deception. He squeezed my hand. Either way, I am grateful for this timeline. My phone lit up with a message from Rachel. Final security systems approved. This center will be a fortress of scientific integrity. Looking at the building that represented our future, I felt profound peace. The wounds of my past life had fully healed, transformed into wisdom and strength. Adrian pulled me close. Ready for tomorrow's experiments? Ready for everything, I replied, meaning it completely, because this time I had built something unbreakable. This time, love and truth had created a future brighter than any I could have imagined. The Quantum Research Center stood as a testament to our journey, not just a place for scientific discovery, but a symbol of redemption, integrity, and the power of choosing a different path. This was the future I was meant to create. This time, I had gotten it right. The Quantum Research Center opened its doors on a bright autumn morning. Sunlight streamed through the high windows, illuminating state-of-the-art laboratories and collaboration spaces. Everything I had lost in my past life had been transformed into something greater. Professor Chen led the ribbon-cutting ceremony, beaming with pride. This center represents the future of quantum physics research, built on integrity, protected by wisdom, dedicated to discovery. Adrian stood beside me as we welcomed our first group of researchers. The MIT quantum computing team had relocated permanently to join our expanding projects. Young scientists from around the world applied to work in our secure facilities. The security protocols you designed are being implemented at universities nationwide, Rachel reported, managing the endless stream of collaboration requests. Quantum Tech's downfall created a revolution in research protection. I watched the new researchers settle into their labs, their enthusiasm untainted by corporate corruption. This center would nurture their discoveries, shield their innovations, and honor their intellectual property. The FBI finished their investigation, Adrian mentioned during our lunch break. The academic espionage network has been completely dismantled. No more James and Lisa scenarios. My phone buzzed with an email from Lisa. She was developing educational programs to help young researchers recognize and resist corporate exploitation. Her prison sentence had become a mission of redemption. James remained unrepentant, his appeals exhausted. The brilliant manipulator who had once controlled my future was now a cautionary tale in scientific ethics courses. Professor Chen gathered our core team for the first official research meeting in the new center. The National Science Foundation has approved unlimited funding for our quantum teleportation initiatives. Your breakthroughs have opened doors we never imagined. Rachel documented everything, maintaining our impeccable records. 3 more universities have requested our security consultation. Your story is changing how academia protects research. Looking around the conference room at these people who had helped me reclaim my destiny, I felt overwhelming gratitude. Adrian caught my eye and smiled, understanding without words. The quantum teleportation experiments progressed beyond our highest expectations. Each success validated our methods of honest collaboration and secured innovation. The Nobel Committee has been asking questions, Professor Chen revealed during a late-night session. Your quantum error correction breakthrough is revolutionizing the field. Adrian squeezed my hand under the table. In my past life, I had lost everything to corporate theft. Now we were advancing science through integrity and shared discovery. Rachel burst in with breaking news. Quantum Tech is being completely dissolved. Their assets are being converted into a foundation for ethical scientific research. The symmetry felt perfect. The corporation that had once enabled theft and betrayal would now protect future generations of scientists. Later that evening, Adrian and I stood on the center's roof, watching stars emerge above Stanford's campus. The same stars that had witnessed my rebirth into this second chance. I have something to ask you, he said softly, turning to face me. Something I have been wanting to ask since you first trusted me with the truth about your past life. My heart raced as he knelt, producing a small box. Maya Chen, will you marry me in this life and any others that might come? Tears of joy blurred my vision. Yes, always yes. Rachel appeared with impeccable timing and champagne. Keeping this secret for weeks. Finally, Professor Chen joined us, bringing the whole team to celebrate. The Quantum Research Center glowed beneath us, a beacon of everything we had built together. My phone lit up with one final message from Lisa. Your success proves that integrity prevails. Thank you for showing me a better path. I looked at Adrian, at our friends, at the center that represented our future. This time, I had not just survived betrayal. This time, I had transformed it into triumph. The Quantum Research Center would stand as our legacy, not just advancing science, but protecting the dreams and discoveries of generations to come. This was the future I was meant to create. This time, love and truth had won completely. In my past life, I had lost everything to betrayal and theft. But this second chance had given me something far greater. A future built on integrity, protected by wisdom, and illuminated by love. Adrian pulled me close as we watched shooting stars streak across the sky. This time, every choice had led me home. This time, I had found my true destiny. The Quantum Research Center below us hummed with possibility. Within its secure walls, young scientists would pursue breakthroughs without fear. Our story would protect their dreams. Our triumph would light their path. This was how it was meant to be. This time, I had my happy ending. This time, everything was right.